What's up, everybody? Welcome in another edition of Refuse to Lose podcast here on this Friday. Hard to believe, December 5th on the eaves of the winter meetings. We don't know how those winter meetings will go for the Mariners, but we will be with you every single step of the way next week. As always, this podcast comes out in season, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, off season, change it up a little bit, but we have been very, very consistent with our episodes. And when the winter meetings come next week, we will be with you anytime something big Mariners related happens. Buster Olney from ESPN was with us on the podcast on Thursday. You can go check out that full interview. We appreciate Buster's time. Happy to have him back for the Thanksgiving holiday. Today, we will have Kristie Ackert on the show. Some of you are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Some of you are watching on YouTube. We're trying to be much better and more consistent about putting out the video portion of our show. If you are watching on the video, you will notice over what is my right shoulder, there is a QR code there. That QR code, if you hit it, you'll be doing myself and Taryn Kovac a big favor. It's going to take you right to our Mariners on Roundtable Sports website, marinersroundtable.com. Pretty simple to remember. Hit the join button, our free community. It's exactly as it sounds, free. We're not, no hidden charges, no subscriptions, no nothing. It is free. All we want you to do is join our page, hang out with us, interact with our stories, read our stories, converse with each other. The conversations you're having on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, we want you to have on our site as well. It's a really cool platform. We've been doing it now for 3 months. It's been a lot of fun to grow it. It continues to grow. We have one of the strongest community followings in the Roundtable Network, so please continue to help us out. It is a new venture, and we are pumped with it. And again, this podcast is free. Our written content is free. That is the best way that you can support us. Kristie Ackert from the Sporting News is going to come by in this episode, maybe about 15 minutes in or so. So we'll enjoy talking with her, our first time talking with her on this show. Without further ado, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
It is going to be very interesting in general what happens at the winter meetings. And now they begin on Sunday night. People will arrive on Sunday night in Orlando. I will not be there. I'm saving up my pennies here to go to spring training in February. So I will not be at the winter meetings. But they start arriving on Sunday in earnest, really. They're Monday through Wednesday. And it will be very interesting to see in general what happens, kind of even outside of the Mariners themselves. As Buster told us, he has kind of a general consensus that the big spenders won't really be big spenders. That is outside of the Blue Jays, of course. So Buster seems to think the winter meetings could be kind of slow from a big money standpoint. Now, we've seen Boston do a lot of its work on the trade market, getting Sonny Gray, now Johan Oviedo, who they picked up on Thursday night. The Blue Jays have already done big work. They might do more, but I don't know how much the Phillies are going to spend, how much the Yankees are going to spend. Feels like a year in which the Astros aren't spending particularly big. The Mets went out and got Devin Williams, but are they going to spend really, really big again after getting Soto and already paying Lindor? And we'll see. I don't know. But Buster's sense is that, well, of course, there will be movement. The big spenders might be out, at least more on the periphery of the big signings, more so than they've been in the last couple of years. Again, of course, the Blue Jays right now being the outlier. As for the Mariners, it feels to me, if you read the tea leaves and you read the other reports and you just kind of use what you know about the Mariners to your benefit, it feels like Jorge Polanco is the big offensive move for them in free agency outside of Josh Naylor. Doesn't mean they can't go make a trade. I think the Mariners will be heavily involved on the trade market, at least in the conversations. I would expect they will get someone on the trade market offensively. But it feels like Polanco is their big target on the free agent market. I think there is a chance that the Mariners could pull Polanco in during the winter meetings, but I think more than likely Jorge Polanco waits until Alex Bregman and Bo Bichette have signed. Because even if Polanco wants to come back to Seattle, it feels to me like he has the most leverage when Bichette and Bregman are off the market. Because teams that miss out on them might be a little more desperate. Polanco might be their fallback option. And then that's where Polanco can go to the Mariners and say, well, look, Team A is bidding, Team B is bidding, Team C is bidding. What are you going to bid? So I don't think that Polanco needs to sign early. And as much as I would like him to, if he's going to come back to the Mariners, I don't think that he has to sign early. We've heard the Red Sox. We've heard the Yankees. We knew Houston was connected last year. We've heard the Pirates this year. Have heard Toronto even lukewarmly connected to Polanco. So we know that the Tigers are interested in Bregman. We know the Cubs are interested in Bregman. So if these teams are interested in Bregman and Bichette and miss out, then Polanco seems like a natural fallback option for them. So I think Polanco say, look, let those two sign. Let 3 or 4 other teams kind of get in the mix for me, and then I can go back to the Mariners with those 3 or 4 teams and say, all right, now what do you have? And let kind of a mini bidding war commence. That's what I feel like is going to happen. So I think Polanco is who the Mariners want. Adam Jude of the Seattle Times reported that Polanco wants the Mariners. But even if that's the case, he doesn't necessarily have a reason to sign maybe until his market fully materializes. And I don't think it's going to fully materialize until after Bregman and Bichette sign. And while Buster Olney wouldn't go quite that far, he did have a similar view to Polanco as I do.
When teams talked to the Diamondbacks before the trade deadline in July, they were told he's not available, and now the answer is different. Like, they are willing to listen. So that's an option. But, of course, if you're the Mariners with their payroll limitations that they have, that's going to affect some other choices that you make. You talked about having to pay their pitching going forward. Polanco is getting a lot of run in the media right now because he was at a terrific 2025. And so you're hearing him connected with the Red Sox, with the Yankees. My sense is that in other organizations, he's looked at as sort of being a fallback. I can't imagine the Red Sox both signing Alex Bregman and Jorge Polanco.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wonder if, that's a place they pivot if they don't like the Bregman price tag.
So that was Buster. He started off there talking about Ketel Marte, of course, and then he moved to Polanco, saying he is getting a lot of run in the media, but that he also thinks that teams view Polanco as a fallback option. So I think there is a mild chance that Polanco gets pulled in during the winter meetings by the Mariners, but I think it's going to be more likely that it waits until after the new year when Bregman and Bichette have had a chance to sign. And again, that secondary market for Polanco can materialize. And I was talking with somebody earlier, nobody on the inside. I was actually talking with another Mariners fan who is a friend of mine. I am mixed on the Polanco stuff. I love Jorge Polanco. And I spent a lot of the 2025 season tweeting, Jorge Polanco, buy stock now. I thought he was going to have a great year. He had a great year. I thought he was a 20 to 25 home run potential guy. He hit 26, drove in 78, hit 265. They're not in the ALCS or in Game 7 without him. I love him. I love that he's a switch hitter. I love the veteran presence. I love all of it. But as I've said many times, the reason why I'm kind of split on this internally in my mind is I just don't think the fit is as clean this year for the Mariners and Polanco. It doesn't mean that they cannot make it work, right? Don't get it wrong. They can make it work, but it's not as clean. And when it's not as clean, I'm just a little more hesitant. I would have to expect that Cal Raleigh gets more time at designated hitter. I have to expect that Harry Ford gets time at designated hitter. Cole Young is currently in there at second. We will get back to him. We obviously don't feel great about Polanco at third. Because of Naylor's presence, he's not a huge option at first. I would take Polanco back because I think he's good. I would take Polanco certainly over doing nothing, but it's just not as clean a fit. And I would be very curious about how the Mariners kind of handle his workload in 2026. And not the number of games, but the split of games. How do they find him 145 games played if he's healthy, given these other positional issues they kind of have to work around. But he does feel to me like he is their big move offensively in free agency. We've heard the trade stuff, Marte, Brendan Donovan. Again, we'll get back to that in a moment. But on the free agent market, it feels like Naylor and Polanco are kind of the two A moves for the Mariners this offseason. Adam Jude, again, Seattle Times put out a great report on Thursday. He said he believes, and he's hearing it, people on the inside tell him that the Mariners are looking to pull in 2 relievers this offseason, and they think one of them will be wrapped up, or they're hopeful one of them is wrapped up by the end of the winter meetings, which is next Wednesday. I will admit this. That surprises me. Now, pleasantly, but that surprises me. I've told you all along that I believe there are kind of 6 spots in the bullpen accounted for. 1, Andres Munoz. 2, Matt Brash. 3, Edward Bizardo. 4, Gabe Spire. 5, Carlos Vargas. The 6th spot I am giving to a lefty. Now, Robinson Ortiz is the lefty currently on the 40-man roster, but it seems like now the Mariners are willing to go outside the 40-man roster to find that lefty, or the current 40-man roster. Jude listed 4 arms there, couple by trade, couple by free agency. Matt Strahm, Jojo Romero, Hobie Milner, saying these are options the Mariners could go pursue either in trade or free agency. So if they do that, that would be the other lefty. That would be spot 6. And then I've been under the assumption that spots 7 and 8 were up for grabs between the guys the Mariners have on the 40-man roster already. This is where Alex Hoppe, who we had in on Tuesday's episode, comes into play. This is where Troy Taylor comes into play. And there are others there. Randy Dobnak, who's not even on the 40-man roster, but the Mariners signed. So I've been under the impression that they had 2 more spots left and that they were both going to come probably from internal options. Jude makes it sound like they'll fill spot 6, that lefty spot, from the outside, and they're willing to fill spot 7 from the outside. And again, I am surprised by this, pleasantly surprised. But I thought that if the Mariners were going to spend this offseason, they were going to spend on offense and offense alone, and that they weren't going to have enough money to spend on the bullpen. This is a positive development. Doesn't mean they're going to go after Pete Fairbanks or Edwin Diaz, but they need another arm that can pitch the 6th or the 7th inning, and they need a deeper bullpen. A deeper bullpen helps take the weight off the leverage guys currently there that pitched a ton in 2025. A deeper bullpen helps take the burden off the starting staff in that they don't have to go 7 innings. Can they comfortably go 5 2/3 and know the Mariners have the horses to get it to the end? So I am thrilled to hear that the Mariners are looking at kind of, again, 2 bullpen arms to fill spot 6, the second lefty, and spot 7. And then that leaves spot 8, and that's where your Jackson Coars, Casey Legumina, Alex Hoppe, that's where they come in. So right now, this is all good news on the Mariners front. We would love for them to be involved in Bregman or in Pete Alonso and put him at the DH. I understand that. But if you're telling me that they're interested in, that they've got Naylor, they're interested in Polanco, they want Polanco back, and they're willing to go out and spend on 2 additional bullpen arms, one of which is a lefty, that has the makings of a very good offseason for the Mariners so far. That has the makings of a very good offseason. Again, we'd love another bat. I'm with you on that. But if you're going to tell me 2 bullpen arms, of which are of reasonable leverage ability, and Naylor and Polanco, I'm not going to quibble if that's what they do. At least I don't think I am, because that would be a good start. And oh, by the way, that's just in free agency. There is still the trade market, of which I said I expect them to be active, and I would be surprised if they don't get at least somebody on the trade market. I don't know who that somebody's going to be, but I would expect them to get somebody. All right. This is the thing that is most on my mind right now, and it stems from the trade market conversation. We hear a lot about the Mariners being interested in Jorge Polanco, and we have the assumption that Polanco will play some second base in 2026 if he's back with the Mariners. Not all, but some. But more hotly, we've heard the Mariners connected to Ketel Marte, an all-star second baseman. We've heard them connected to Brendan Donovan, an all-star second baseman. And my question is this, and I asked this of Buster, and I'm going to ask this of Kristie Ackert. What is the perception of Cole Young heading into 2026? Because I don't know this to be true. This is me speculating. But if they were so gung-ho on Cole Young being the guy at second base this year, we wouldn't be having these conversations. But we are having them, and we're having them intensely, and I want to know why. Is Cole Young not the guy that we've been led to believe that he is? Is he not the guy that they believed him to be? Those are the things I want to know. Because Cole Young was a top 100 prospect, one of 8 or 9 top 100 prospects the Mariners had in 2025. He made his debut. It was a heralded debut. He had great moments. He had a pretty decent, I thought, as I'm recalling, kind of a pretty decent kind of mid-June to mid-July. And then, or July and August, but then he fell off a cliff in July or at the end of August and into September. We didn't even see him in the playoffs. So I have been under the assumption that Cole Young was going to be the guy in 2026 and that the getting the feet wet of 2025 was going to set him up really well for 2026. And he was going to have the ability to have a long runway and hit the ground running. It's part of the reason I've been kind of mixed on Jorge Polanco, because I've just anticipated that Cole Young was going to be there at second base for the duration of the season. But if these conversations are happening like they are, again, interested in Polanco, interested in Brendan Donovan, interested in Ketel Marte, Brandon Lau's name keeps coming up in trade conversations when you kind of link to the Mariners. It's very, very interesting. If Cole Young, if they were so high on him, would we be having these conversations? So are the Mariners doing the wise thing and maybe punting on a guy that they just now know isn't the guy? Or are they maybe pulling the plug too early? I don't know the answer to this, but I know that if they were sold on Cole Young and the way that they're sold on Colt Emerson, we wouldn't be hearing these names. So I will be very curious, or I am very curious, what the internal conversations are like on Cole Young, because I've been excited by him. In my mind, Cole Young at his best in 4 years is Brendan Donovan, a high contact, low strikeout, hits 13 to 15 home runs, has a good eye and gets on base. I think what Brendan Donovan is that everyone's salivating over is what Cole Young could be. And are the Mariners thinking that Cole Young is not that guy? Or are they just thinking, hey, he might be that guy, but he's not that guy now, and we need that guy today? That I might be able to reconcile a little bit more. But I've been under the impression that Cole Young was good and was going to play a lot in 2026. And now I don't know exactly how he's perceived. I asked Buster Olney about this on Thursday as well.
Yep. It's a great question. And Mariners, of course, in the conference rooms, when they have these talks, they're going to make their evaluation on him. I got to believe that if they believe in his talent, that's always the direction that a team that inhabits the payroll level that they do, that they're going to go with a cheaper player. Because if you go with a cheaper player like a Cole Young, then it enables you to have more flexibility in dealing with the most important part of the team, and that is the pitching staff.
Now, that's a great point as well. We know the Mariners to not be free spending, right? They're not interested in Bregman or Bichette probably. So if they have a good, young, athletic, cheap internal option, that will always be the preferred option. That's the preferred option for all teams. Homegrown, young, cheap, athletic. That is the preferred option for all teams in baseball. And if the Mariners are going to pass on that in favor of someone older and more expensive, that tells me one of two things. One, they don't think Cole Young is the guy. Or two, the sense of urgency to win now is so real, they are willing to punt or risk Cole Young being the guy in order to speed up the process. And again, not everybody would agree with that, but we could at least reconcile that. If the Mariners came out and said, hey, we think Cole Young could be Brendan Donovan in 4 years. We just need him to be Brendan Donovan now, and that's why we're going to get Brendan Donovan. I can at least comprehend that. But the talks of second base, they just have me questioning what exactly Cole Young is at that point. All right. I want to go out to the phone line. I want to bring on Kristie Ackert. She is a longtime baseball reporter. She has covered baseball in the New York market for years, both Yankees and Mets. I actually sat next to her in the press box at Steinbrenner Field this year for Mariners and Rays for 3 games. Well, I don't know if she was there for all 3 games, but I was certainly there for all 3 games. But we sat directly next to each other. She's a great baseball mind. She wrote a very interesting piece on the Mariners ahead of the winter meetings for the Sporting News. And Kristie Ackert is on the phone line with us now. Kristie, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Good to talk with you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. Before we get to your article in the Mariners specifically, will the winter meetings, in your opinion, be A, fun, B, boring, or just the Blue Jays Invitational?
That's funny. Well, it's sounding like the Blue Jays Invitational at the moment, but all the years I went to the winter meetings, I always felt like they brought us there to be a backdrop for MLB Network, so it looked like there were things going on behind them. The last few years, there's been some movement. I don't think it's going to be as fun as people are expecting. Like, I always think we go in thinking, oh my God, it's going to be so much going on. I think there's always, some caution there. So I don't know. They're hard to predict. I do think you will see 2 free agents signed between now and next Wednesday.
Okay, so some action. So all of my watching television, waiting for something to happen, will not be in vain. But it looks like the Blue Jays are going to be certainly the big players. Look, the Mariners played the Blue Jays in the ALCS, and they were right there. They arguably coulda, woulda, shoulda won the ALCS, dropping games 6 and 7. How much further away from the Blue Jays now do you think the Mariners are based on what Toronto's done already?
Yeah, the Mariners need to get going. The Blue Jays are really just kind of keeping their foot on the pedal right now, which I'm happy to see, because for too long they've acted like they weren't a big market team, and they are. The Rogers Communications Corporation has enough money to spend. But I think you're right. I think the Mariners have to, address their bullpen, address their lineup if they want to, stay on pace with the Blue Jays right now and the rest of the AL. And we're not even talking about the Dodgers.
We're not even talking about the Dodgers. I don't want to force you too deep into the nitty-gritty on a team you don't cover regularly, but I will draw on your general baseball experience to ask you this question. We had Buster Olney on from ESPN yesterday, and we talked with him about this, and I want your opinion. Cole Young came up in May last year, top 100 prospect. We think of him as the second baseman of the future, had some very nice moments, but did not make the postseason roster, and the Mariners used Jorge Polanco at second. Heading into 2026, I think of Cole Young as the second baseman and getting a long runway to prove that he is the guy that we thought he was. But the Mariners continue to be connected to Polanco. They're connected to Brendan Donovan. They're connected to Ketel Marte. You've covered a lot of teams for a lot of years. When you have this top prospect, Why are we hearing so much other outside candidacies at second base? Is that a sign that a team doesn't believe in the guy we thought they believed in?
No, it's because parades are better than prospects. It's because, remember, yes, these guys in the front office have always, are looking at their kids coming up. He hasn't really proven himself at the major league level yet. Let's be real, such as a Donovan has. I mean, if you have a chance to get a Brendan Donovan, you go for it. That's the problem with being a prospect. Unless you come up and you dominate and you take over, you can be you can be moved. Your course of your career can be changed very quickly. Polanco, they have a history with him. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard. Managers are very wary generally of kids. Remember, rookies can cost the manager a job. So that's why they're always going to tend to go towards veterans, I believe.
This is the question of the offseason for me, and I'm going to ask it. I've asked it already of people. I'm going to continue asking it until we get to spring training. I'm going to ask you, again, drawing on your experience, how the Mariners lost in Game 7 of the ALCS was devastating. And there's two ways that this goes. It either crushes you or somehow it motivates you in the way Game 7 of the 2003 ALCS turned the Red Sox into the World Series champions in 2004. What needs to happen either organizationally or mindset-wise to make it go that way instead of the poor way?
Well, I think it starts with the players, honestly. I mean, there can always be talk about, how that hurt motivated you. I need to see that motivation in action, right? So I want to see how the players react to that. Now, the front office needs to react to that by investing in those players and telling them, look, you were this close. We believe in you. Here's, we're bringing Josh Naylor back. That's one sign, but you need to add to that as well. I think it starts and ends with the players. I don't think it's organizational. It's personal.
I was a big supporter and defender of Dan Wilson in 2025 for a lot of different reasons. And the Mariners ended up getting further than they've ever gone. So I think regardless of how it ended, I think he deserves a lot of credit for getting a place the organization has never gone. That said, I don't think that he handled the pitching at the end of Game 7 of the ALCS particularly well. I think he needs to grow from that in the way we ask players to grow over an offseason. How easy is it in your experience for a manager to be reflective and grow from season to season?
That's a good question. They have to be open and willing to do so. Sometimes their egos can get in the way of that. I've seen managers grow. I think Aaron Boone, despite what everybody will tell you, has grown. Terry Collins grew as a manager. I don't think there's a limit on that. I don't know him well enough. Dan seems like a pretty reflective guy, pretty smart. It'll be interesting to see. I agree with you. I think there were, especially for such a smart man, there were some mix-ups at the end of the season with the bullpen. Now, whether that's him being, going through the front office, coming down and saying, look, we need to talk about this and learn from it. A lot of times you'll see a mentor, an older manager or someone that they rely on talking to them in the off season. I don't think it'll be very public, but you'll know when you see him in a high leverage situation again.
It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this, and injury is the obvious concern of the World Baseball Classic. But aside from that, the Mariners are going to be arguably the most affected team by the World Baseball Classic. I think they could have upwards of 10 guys leave during spring training to go play in the WBC. And I don't know if I look at that as like, hey, that's actually a good thing because, now guys aren't kind of stewing on last year. They're kind of focusing on something else. Or maybe I want everybody together kind of kumbaya-ing it to get over last season. How do you think the WBC kind of impacts the flow of a spring training and team building?
As much as I love the WBC, if I were a GM, I would never let my pitchers go to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My first WBC, I didn't cover it, but when I was covering the Mets, David Wright hurt his back. It's a scary thing. I don't necessarily know that it affects team building too much, because when those guys aren't there, they're still playing baseball, but their teammates back at spring training or on the other teams are paying attention to what's going on. Pretty much everybody in baseball is invested in that one thing during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're kind of away and nobody knows what you're doing. You watch the Four Nations, you watch the World Baseball Classic, you really don't want guys to miss out on that experience. It's such a cool thing. But the injury risk scares me more than anything else. And also, I feel like sometimes when they do the WBC, they peak too early and you see it in October.
Yeah. Fair point there. And we certainly hope the Mariners are playing into October. I feel bad. I've buried the lead for 10 minutes. We brought you on to discuss your article, and you gave a 3-pointed plan for how the Mariners can get back to the ALCS and potentially beyond, which is what we're all hoping for. I was most interested by point number 3 you made, Kristie, where we talk about you think the Mariners need to go out and acquire another starter. They already have 5. Why do you think they need another?
Well, one, I think we just talked about it, injuries.
Yes.
I mean, no major league team gets through a season with 5 starters. Let's be real. Why do I think that? I don't know. I feel like they were missing something. And even when you have those extra starters, they go into the bullpen and help you in October. It makes it a little easier on the back end guys when you have guys that can, pitch high leverage innings earlier in a game. The other thing is, they need to address that bullpen. And I mean, you could bring in another starter and use him as a swingman. I know the Yankees just brought in Ryan Yarborough for that situation. Maybe you trade one of your younger starters for what you need in the bullpen, because there's not that much out there anymore, unless they're, are they going to get Edwin Diaz back? I mean, I don't know if they need that, but there's not a lot of good left-handed bullpen, pitching out there either. So
now you're starting to make me wonder if they need to be like in on the Chris Bassett's of the world, someone who can be in the bullpen but could also spot start and is a veteran with the quote bulldog mentality.
Yeah, you know what? I think those guys are underrated. I mean, honestly, I know he didn't show up in the end because he was injured, but Ryan Yarborough probably saved the Yankees season because he stepped in at a time when they really needed him.
Well, we will see. And Adam Jude of the Seattle Times, we've been talking about this. He gave a couple of names. Mariners specifically looking at lefties this year, which is something you mentioned as well, needing another lefty to kind of help Gabe Spire out. He pitched in 83 games last year between the playoffs and the regular season.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Matt Strom, trade candidate from the Phillies. He's a name that Jude mentioned that was out there. Jojo Romero of the Cardinals. So there are some interesting lefties, but a lot of them look like they're more trade candidates than signing at this point.
Yeah, it's funny because before I came on, I looked at left-handed free agent relievers, and there's not a lot out there. There's not a lot you're going to give a lot of money to, that's for sure.
Well, sometimes that helps the Mariners, Kristie. So, not giving a lot of money is something the Mariners do well. So we will see how they address this over the course of the rest of the offseason. I don't know. I'm so interested in the Polanco thing because he was so good for them this year, but he struggled so much for them in 2024. He's 32, going to be 33. They're supposed to have the second baseman of the future in Cole Young on the roster. We would assume they're going to give Cal Raleigh more DH days next year. So how much does Polanco get to DH? It's like, he's a good player. I love him, but it seems like somewhat of an imperfect fit.
Yeah, but do you really want to put all that pressure on a rookie playing second base on a team that's looking to get back to the ALCS from the get-go? part of me feels like you bring in a veteran to make sure the kid can do it, because you can't, honestly, for all we see, little taste, you never believe what you see in March or September. So for the little taste we see of these guys, you don't know if they can do it until they do.
I will get you out of here on this, and I will not be a hypocrite. I've said this over and over again. I cared far more how the Mariners did as a team than I cared about individual awards. So while I wish Cal Raleigh would have won the MVP, I am not someone kicking and screaming about it. You have significant experience covering the Yankees, so you have significant experience around Aaron Judge. Where did you land on the Judge-Cal debate this year?
That's a tough one. It's because the year that my last year on the Yankee beat was the year Judge hit 62.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I was a star in Japan because I kept getting asked who I'd vote for the MVP between him and Ohtani. And I kept saying Judge because he did something that significant, Look, I thought what Cal did was amazing, and I was rooting for him to hit 63 because then it would have been done and easy for me,
Yeah.
I just think it's hard when you look at the numbers Judge put up. I don't know. I don't vote in these awards. I probably should have prefaced this. I just take myself out of the voting. I also don't vote for Hall of Fame because I don't think reporters should. But that would have been a hard one. I probably would have voted for Judge. But, and then again, I would probably doubt myself in terms of East Coast bias because I see him more.
Yeah. I'm going to get you out of here on this. I'll bring you into the Mariners world and draw on your Yankees experience. I am 36. I am of the perfect age to have been jilted and disliked A-Rod for the way he left the Mariners for a very long time. That said, I have softened my stance over the last few years. The Mariners this year are celebrating their 50th season in existence. And in August, they're going to do the 50 Greatest Mariners. A-Rod's going to be a part of that. He's still not in the Mariners Hall of Fame. Some fans want him there. Some fans don't want him there. But this kind of season, 50 years, seems like the one chance everyone's going to have to mend fences in this. And if A-Rod's going to get to the Mariners Hall of Fame, I feel like it's going to come from this season. You have covered A-Rod and been around him. I'm just curious your experience with A-Rod.
Well, my covering baseball for me, I was doing a lot of A-Rod rehab assignments before I became a beat writer.
Yep.
So, yes, I've traveled through Trenton and Tampa and Scranton with A-Rod, spent a lot of time with A-Rod. I think he's different now than he was as a player. I do believe the theory that he's grown up a lot. One of the smartest hitting minds I've ever talked to. And he loves baseball. And you can't say that about every player, honestly. Not every player loves baseball. I mean, he can be a bit much, He certainly buys into the A-Rod hype.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, I haven't seen the documentary that they're coming out with or they've come out with. I don't know. I've had enough A-Rod in my life. So he was a phenomenal player. I remember in 2009 when he basically carried the Yankees to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of admired how he did it in that he had become the villain and he had fought being the villain for so long. And then that year he kind of just accepted that he was the villain and he just put them on his shoulders and they won. I guess I admire that he's changed his life a lot. And obviously I admire the talent. I wish I knew what was real and what wasn't real, but he was an incredibly talented baseball player at times.
The thing that is so interesting about Mariners A-Rod is that the steroid conversation, to our knowledge, that cloud doesn't hang over Mariners A-Rod. The cloud is solely how he left. and
Yeah.
leaving in 2001 or after 2000 in 2001 to go to Texas for the money. That is the cloud. The steroid stuff will keep him out of maybe the Rangers Hall of Fame, the Yankees Monument Park, or the Baseball Hall of Fame. That doesn't impact his Mariners standing at all. It is solely how he left, and we will see maybe if this season is able to rectify some things. Kristie Ackert, Sporting News, longtime baseball writer. I sat next to her at the press box in Tampa as the Mariners were getting pummeled for 3 games this year in one of the more regrettable trips of my life. So, Kristie, much appreciated. Thank you so much for the time, and be well.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. Kristie Ackert, Sporting News, formerly of The Athletic, I believe the New York Daily News also. So just a really good baseball writer and really good baseball mind. And again, I did get a chance to sit next to her in Tampa. That was the worst trip of the season. Well, I saw the Mariners get swept twice. I saw them get swept by the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, and I saw them get swept in Tampa. I would say the Tampa trip was worse just for the sense that I had to fly there. I live in New York. I was able to drive to Yankee Stadium, so it was a little bit easier of a trip. Yeah, the Tampa trip was worse. That was ugly. That was really ugly. But a lot of good stuff there from Kristie Ackert. So she doesn't think that the conversation around second base for the Mariners is necessarily an indictment on Cole Young. She just says, look, proven players are better than prospects. So even if Cole Young is good or might be good, Brendan Donovan is good right now. And that is her point. And that's kind of the point I was getting at when I was wondering, okay, is that really what this is about? We just need to expedite getting to the point where our second baseman is really good and ready to contribute. So she seems to think it's more of that than maybe a sign that Cole Young isn't the guy. Loved her perspective on A-Rod. It is an interesting idea about the Mariners getting another starter on the market. And it's, I guess what it comes down to is, how do you feel about Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock? Because I've talked about the bullpen and kind of spots 7 and 8. Emerson Hancock is in the mix there too. Now, he might end up staying a starter for this team, for this organization. But if he doesn't, he's in the mix for the bullpen as well as a spot guy or, a potential starter. You have Logan Evans. You have Emerson Hancock. Do you want to go out and acquire another swing guy, another just in case? Do you want to acquire Eric Lauer from the Blue Jays? Do you want to acquire Cutter Crawford from the Red Sox? These guys would be available, I would have to imagine. So I am curious as to how the Mariners feel about it. Like, I'm all for having depth options. They have Evans. They have Hancock. Do they want to go out and get another one? Kristie Ackert seems to think I think Bassett's probably too much, but Eric Lauer, Cutter Crawford, I can see them trying to make a move maybe for one of those guys. I think Crawford will come cheaper than Lauer would, but it's interesting. It's certainly interesting to think about what the Mariners will do. You can never have too much starting pitching. The Mariners right now, I think, do have more bullpen needs, though, than starters at this moment. All right, continuing on here as we get ready to get out of here. Interesting story also from Adam Jude, Seattle Times, earlier this week. And we had heard this. Ryan Divish was on Puck's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said that this was coming, and now Jude says it officially is. Michael Arroyo is going to play left field in the Colombian Winter League. Michael Arroyo, if you're not familiar, is one of the Mariners' top 100 prospects, or one of the Mariners' top prospects. He's in the MLB top 100. He's number 63 right now, and he is 5'10". He looks like Jose Ramirez. He's right-handed, man, and he just hits. He just hits. It's 17 home runs this year between high A and double A. He's expected maybe to get to the majors in 2026. From my experience at spring training last year, he is not a very good defender at second base, at least not long-term at the major league level. Well, maybe because of that, and maybe because of Cole Young, Colt Emerson, Ben Williamson, Felnine Celestin, and anyone else the Mariners acquire, the Mariners see the writing on the wall that Michael Arroyo is not going to be a second baseman. They're moving him to left field. I wonder a couple of things. One, does this make Michael Arroyo less likely to be traded? because Michael Arroyo, the second baseman, I think was expendable when you have Young and Celestine and Emerson and these other middle infielders. Michael Arroyo, the second baseman, I thought was expendable. Michael Arroyo, the left fielder, he might not be expendable. Randy Arozarena is a free agent after 2026. Victor Robles is a free agent after 2026. If you are going to need outfielders for the 2027 season, maybe Michael Arroyo is one of them. Maybe it's Arroyo, Julio, and Lazaro Montes. Dom Canzone's in there too. I don't know, but I want to know, does this make him less likely to be traded because the Mariners need outfielders? Or do other teams look at it and say, ooh, newfound versatility, we want him more? I don't know the answer to that. I'm also interested in Arroyo is going to play for Team Columbia at the World Baseball Classic. I believe he'll be the youngest Mariners player to play in the WBC. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that will be the case. I believe he is 20 or 21. He's got to play second for Columbia, right? So they're going to go to the work of making him a left fielder in the winter. They're probably going to work with him in left field early in spring training, and then he's going to go and play second base for 2.5 weeks. Just, curious kind of how that stunts his outfield development and if it means anything. So I am interested in that. I did not like, by the way, what Buster Olney told us on Thursday about the WBC, that he thinks relievers are at the biggest risk in the World Baseball Classic. That I don't like. And it makes sense, right? These guys that aren't ready for true leverage moments are given huge leverage moments. And Bizzardo, Munoz, Brash, they could all be in the mix. Heck, even Gabe Spire could be in the mix potentially. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but even Gabe Spire could potentially be in the mix for Team USA. So if the Mariners end up in, or if those Mariners relievers end up in the WBC, then Buster thinks they are at the biggest risk. And that is something that is very, very, that's not what I particularly wanted to hear. That is not what I wanted to hear. I love the World Baseball Classic, but I acknowledge that it comes with a whole lot of risk. And, we're going to see, it all. Mariners are going to have a bunch of guys subjected to that risk. So, but again, Brash, Munoz, Bizzardo, I think they're all going to play in the World Baseball Classic. All right. And wrapping it up, one last thing from Buster, which I did think was interesting, real quick on the way out the door. Buster agreed with what I said on Tuesday, right? If you go back on Tuesday, I said one of the keys for the Mariners moving forward is going to be their ability to develop young pitching in this season, because they're going to have these really hard decisions to make about paying their starters in a couple of years. So he agrees that having cheap internal talent, Ryan Sloan, Cade Anderson, Jurangelo Saintia, is going to be important for the Mariners. But what I didn't say, and what I think Buster is right on, is this.
And it's why, as we go forward and the Mariners make the choice, keeping that pipeline of talent developed is the most important thing. If you are not going to be a team that spends money like the Mets, the Yankees, or the Dodgers, or the Blue Jays, you have to keep that pipeline of talent going. So, when we talk during the wintertime and we talk about, potential asking price for a guy like Tarek Skubal, right? If you're the Mariners, you're probably, the first thing you're doing is protecting that group of young players that you have and not using those assets if you're not prepared to spend that kind of money.
That is interesting. And I hadn't really thought about that. A lot of the assumption has been, the Mariners have some surplus minor league pitching. They can use it to go get somebody, whether that's Skubal, whether that's Donovan, whether that's Marte. If they are not going to pay all of their current staff, and they're going to need their young guys to backfill that staff in the next 2 or 3 years, they might be hesitant to give up on some of those young pitchers or to give away some of those young pitchers. So as you think about the idea of acquiring a Ketel Marte or a Brendan Donovan, just know that it might be harder to do that than we thought, given their need to keep and develop their internal pitching options. That's going to do it for us here on the Refuse to Lose podcast on this Friday. The winter meetings, people report on Sunday. The good stuff will probably start happening on Monday. How much will the Mariners be involved? I do not know, but we will be there for you every step of the way. We'll have multiple podcasts next week as things are happening. If we need to, we're working on a very big guest for next week, which if we could pull it off, I would be very, very excited about as well. Myself and Taryn Kovac do all we can to bring you all the Mariners news and notes that you need. It's marinersroundtable.com. It's marinersroundtable.com. The QR code right above me if you're watching these videos on social media or watching this live on X or on YouTube. That QR code takes you right to our page. Hit the join button. It is free. Read our stuff, like our stuff, comment on our stuff. Start the conversation in your own thread. Things you want to know from us, things you want to talk about with each other. That's what the community section is for, and it helps us get the word out about our site. I get asked all the time, what's the best way to help you guys grow? That is it. And I will continue to say this. Our site is free. There is no paywall. Our podcast is free. There is no paywall. The best way for you to help us is to just come to the site, tell people it exists, join the community, and help us get our readership up, because that's ultimately how we grow and how we earn money. Again, we're not earning money from subscriptions. We're not earning money from paywalls. We're earning money from how many people come to our site and kind of spread the word. And that's what we're asking you to help us do. And we appreciate those who do. I want to thank Buster for stopping by on Thursday. I want to thank Kristie Ackert for stopping by today. Have a great weekend. We'll be back for the winter meetings. And again, we're working on that big guest. So until then, as always, go M's.